Okay, so we are moving on to motivation in 2.4. All right. So these are the three SL motivation theories that we need to know in the SL content. All right. I'll just make that clear. SL. Yep. We have F.W. Taylor, Maslow, and Hertzberg. Okay. These three are very, very big and common motivational theorists within the whole business world, and it is actually widely used. Now, everything that's on this board here are what I would like to call buzzwords for each of these theorists, okay? Because when it comes to the actual theories and theorists, I would read into it more because I'm going to cover a general summary of each theorist. And if you just, because these theorists are a lot heavy in content. So a way I've devised is if you memorize key buzzwords, okay, you will help maintain the most general and the most efficient way to understand each theorist. So let's start with F.W. Taylor. What I like to usually say, F.W. Taylor, money is the main motivator, okay? So Taylor is a guy who is very based off scientific management, and his entire theory stems on the idea that workers are primarily motivated by monetary rewards. So if you pay them more, they'll do more, okay? Now, the only reason that he was interested is because he applied towards a factory. So with this idea, he came with the idea of piece rate pay, and how this idea that since workers are primarily motivated by monetary rewards, piece rate pay is a key buzzword here to remember, as piece rate pay is awarding higher pays depending on the output each worker is able to produce. So that it motivates each worker to produce more and more and more, so they get paid more and more and more, okay? This follows a very autocratic leadership and creates this thing called a them versus us culture. By this, I mean it's very managers versus employees culture, because it's just the employees work for themselves. They work to make, and the manager is very away from them. They're not involved. They don't get involved with them. They just tell them what to do. This is not super generalizable in today's world because, as I was saying before, since he generated this around a factory, it applies for low-skilled workers quite well, but other than that, it's not so generalizable. But it does highlight key ideas of monetary rewards and kind of forge the stem of the later motivational theories. Now, we move on to Maslow, okay? Maslow is a development of F.W. Taylor, and his theory, basically involves that motivation arrives from fulfilling an entire hierarchy of needs. Maslow's theory is called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. In this hierarchy, right here, we have at the core, we have human needs. Then we move up to safety needs. Then we move up to social needs, esteem needs, then self-actualization. So when it comes to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you cannot achieve what's up here without achieving the core ideas. You need to make sure this is ticked off, this is ticked off, this is ticked off, this is ticked off, to ensure this is ticked off. You can't not meet your safety needs and expect to meet your social needs. It needs to work base by base, like you're forging a pyramid. You can't just have the middle be thin air. So let's go each of these stages and hierarchy, levels of hierarchy. When I refer to human needs, it can also be called physiological needs or basic needs. This is literally the bare fundamentals that people need in order to survive. So if your working conditions provides food, water, shelter, clothing, these bare human fundamentals to actually live, okay? And this is what every business should have no matter what. Then we move on to safety needs. We look more at your working conditions. Are you safe in your working conditions? Are you safe from external threats like wars or your country's maybe large conflict or violence? If you do not achieve these safety needs, you cannot move on to the next level of hierarchy called social needs. This is in its name. This is the idea of having that opportunity to be social, engage with others, form relationships, okay, and create a sense of belonging within your company. Now we move on to esteem needs. When esteem needs is the idea of recognition of work. Like, individuals need to understand that their work is being recognized and it's being appealed to others. It's the idea of being valued. You know that you are valued in your company and you get that security. So with esteem needs, once you reach these esteem needs, you know you're valued in the company, you're secure in your position, you know you're secure, then you start working harder, you get motivated because you know you mean something to the company. And now we have the top of this level hierarchy of needs called self-actualization, okay? Now, not honestly, most businesses don't even reach self-actualization because this is the whole aspect of finding your true purpose as an individual. It's the idea where you find out what you truly want about yourself and you allow yourself to grow. Your business needs to be motivating in a way where you are able to grow personally to help the business. Like Google, for an example, they do 20-minute free time where you can do whatever you want for 20 minutes in a day using all of Google's factors. That is a great example of self-actualization because that's where Gmail came from. Gmail came from this 20-minute free time because people were just working on themselves and they were given the opportunity to grow and develop and self-actualize their actual needs and their skills. So, that is Maslow in a nutshell. So whenever we talk about Maslow, human needs, safety needs, social needs, esteem needs, self-actualization, hierarchy of needs. And now, we have Hertzberg. Usually this theory is called Hertzberg's two factors theory, okay? So first we have hygiene factors, okay? These hygiene factors are needed in order to prevent demotivation, okay? Now, your hygiene factors are not something that actually motivate your employees. They are something that prevent demotivation of your employees. So you need your hygiene factors to make sure your employees are not demotivated. Hygiene factors are kind of these aspects of the Maslow's needs, okay? It's the fact that people have safe working conditions, that minimum pay is at least being paid, okay? So basic hygiene factors of a working environment need to be met in order to make sure your employees will just do the normal amount of work. Then we have a sense of motivators. This is why we call it the two-factor theory, because the motivators only work once your hygiene factors are met. So if my hygiene factors are not met, then everyone's going to be demotivated and I won't be able to motivate anyone without meeting my hygiene factor. So now once my hygiene factors are all met, I move on to actually motivating people. Now, just like Taylor, just like Maslow, we've understood that there are monetary rewards that can help, but it's not just monetary rewards, but also intrinsic factors like growth, social needs, okay? And it's just the idea that you need to meet your hygiene factors in order to prevent demotivation. That is very key. Everyone messes that up. Prevent demotivation. And then your motivators can only work once hygiene factors are met. So, that's it for the SL Theorists. Okay, so this is the HL Theorist for motivational theories, okay? We have McLennan, we have Adams equity theory, we have Vroom's expectancy theory, and we have Decky and Ryan. Okay, So let's go to the first one, McLennan. Now, this is also referred to as sometimes the acquired needs theory, okay? Because it kind of stems on the fact that motivation stems from three extrinsic needs: the need for achievement, the need for power, and the need for affiliation, okay? So it the McLennan's acquired needs theory kind of helps managers understand the different types of people and what the different desires people want in your business in order to foster working environments around that, okay? So it like recognizes this varying dominant needs in individuals, okay? And then as I said, it enables these like tailored motivational strategies towards employees specifically. So when as a manager, if you're able to recognize individuals have the need for achievement, okay, then this achievement focused individuals, they prefer challenging, okay, but like achievable tasks, okay? So tasks that are unachievable, unmanageable is or overly easy is not something they prefer, okay? And this is extremely good for these individuals because it strives them to work more and more and more and more, okay? Because they like the idea of doing more work that challenges them. Secondly, we have the need for power. Individuals who are like power motivated, okay, these people aim to influence others. As a business owner, it can help you see that they could be good in positions of management and maybe in leading a team of people because their institutional power leads to like better organizational outcomes. So if the people who follow a need for achievement, they'd be better to doing their own tasks that are achievable but manageable. But then the people who have a desire for a need for power, they are better suitable for management and leadership positions. And we also have the need for affiliation. Okay, this need for affiliation, these affiliation oriented people within a business value cooperative environment, a collaborative environment, okay, and how they value teamwork and relationships. So this may allow them to struggle in leadership roles. So as a business manager, you can see these guys might be really good in these group tasks, or maybe when they leadership tasks, when they're a little bit alone, they will struggle a little bit more. So now, let's move on to Adams' equity theory, okay? So when we talk about Adams' equity theory and Vroom's expectancy theory, they come together as the equity and expectancy theory, okay? So I've only separated it here because that's what I've learned, and also it's because they are a little bit different. However, under the IB Business Management, they do come under the same branch, which is expectancy and equity theories. That is what the IB believes for these two combined. So let's look into Adams' equity theory first, okay? This equity theory is kind of shows how motivation depends on how employees perceive fairness of input to output ratios, both individually and relatively to their peers, okay? So it's how much this idea of fairness based on how much they are putting and how much they are receiving, or based off how much I'm putting and how much other people are receiving, like depending on how much they input as well. This idea of equity and fairness in workplace basically explores how unfair rewards or excessive workloads can demotivate employees, okay? If someone gets a lot more for a lot less, or someone has a lot more to do for a lot less, this can demotivate employees. While equitable equitable rewards enhance motivation and productivity. So if everyone is earning, like we can see that everyone gets the same rewards for the same like difficulty of tasks. This will make you feel very equitable and makes you really motivated and more productive. This kind of idea talks about how like workers can like compare and their contributions and rewards across all department, and expresses need for a transparency and communication to truly affect people's motivation and satisfaction. So now when we move on to Vroom's expectancy theory, okay, this is kind of about how motivation arises when employees believe that their like effort and their work leads to desirable outcomes. Okay, it emphasizes how, would you call it, personalized rewards, how like your personalized rewards align with your employees goals. Okay, this ensures motivation through clear and attainable expectations. Okay, because the one that I can think, the rewards that go for each individuals are something that your employees can expect and actually think they can truly attain. So Vrooms conducted the formula for motivation, how you need motivation comes from this expectancy, instrumentality, and valence to illustrate this balance, okay, between all three of them within yours to actually ensure that people will be motivated. And now we have lastly Decky and Ryan, okay? So Decky and Ryan's, this is what we call Decky and Ryan's self-determination theory, okay? It is also the idea that motivation is driven by intrinsic factors of autonomy, competency, and relatedness, okay? And this intrinsic motivation drives personal growth to fulfill beyond external rewards you can get, such as monetary rewards. So when we look at autonomy, Decky and Ryan, they emphasize this sense of autonomy, okay, to emphasize self-management and your own personal control over tasks to lead to this greater motivation and accountability for your actions, which is one reason why it is very, very needed, that he believes goes beyond external motivators. Secondly, when it comes to competence, it relates to the idea of confidence and mastery of tasks, and how this is boosted by feedback and realistic challenges that people face. Okay, so if employees are confident that they maybe are a master in their roles or their job specification, through constructive feedback and presenting them with realistic challenges there and there, this gives people that sense of competency and sense of belief and confidence that they can do their task, and making them want to do it more and more and more because they believe they're fit, motivating them. And now when we talk about relatedness focuses on connections with others, okay? How promoting teamwork and collaboration for this sense of belonging, and how eventually all of this would lead to this idea of, what do you call it? Idea of motivation, because you have such a strong corporate culture. Now, everything I've been saying sounds quite similar to McLennan's, okay? But this differs from McLennan's extrinsic focus because it emphasizes on self-driven goals rather than using external pressures, okay? So that is all of the theorists. And what I have here is all of the buzzwords you should understand to have a true grasp of every single theorist, and just enough to get you your level 7. Yep. Okay, so when we talk about motivation, one way to do this and the way these motivational theories involve is by offering rewards to your employees, okay? Now, this can be done through financial rewards or these non-financial rewards. Let's go through them. So first and foremost, the most obvious financial reward you can give your employees is just salaries. The higher their salary, the more they are to work more because they're getting paid more. The whole essence of financial rewards is you get more money, you do more work. So that's what ultimately every financial reward is going to stem towards. Now, wages, okay? Wages can be based off you're paid hourly on how long you work, so that will encourage you to work longer. Or as F.W. Taylor goes through piece rate wages, okay, is the idea that you get paid based on the output of work you do. So the more output you have, the more you get paid, okay? So now we also have commission. Commission is commonly used in real estate businesses, maybe law firms, not 100% exactly, where you get a certain percentage cut based on each good sold you do. So in a lot of marketing industries, real estate industry, these aspects, if I sell a $10,000 house, let's say I'm a real estate agent, I sell a $10,000 house, my commission, my pay is 5%, okay? That means when I sell that $10,000 house, I get 5% of that as payment. Now, this is usually not the only form of payment. You have a base salary, which is usually quite low because you get offered commission. Secondly, we have profit-related pay, okay? This kind of payment is you get paid a certain percentages of the company's profits, okay? So this forces individuals to want the company to do good because that means if the company is more profitable or if it's generating more profit, you yourself will earn a lot more money, thus increasing employees' efficiency and motivation. Then we have performance-related pay. Now, this is different from piece rate functions because performance-related pay talks about an included bonus after a certain quota is met. So if I'm a factory worker and I need to make 100 products a day, then my quota is 100 products a day. Once I hit 100, okay, for everything above 100, I get a certain performance-related pay, maybe an extra dollar per item. That is different from piece rate functions, because piece rate wages, because over here, everything I make is paid on. Whereas in performance-related pay, I'm still getting paid base salary, but I just get an extra bonus if I make extra than I am supposed to. Now we also get employee share ownership schemes. This is related to profit-related pay, but it gets employees to become direct internal stakeholders as they become shareholders of the company. This gives you an added bonus of a few share ownership schemes of the company you're working in, which means you need the company to do good as you are a part owner, and follows the same idea as profit-related pay, that it will improve your outlook on the company and improve your efficiency and your motivation to help yourself. And seventh, we have this thing called fringe payments, okay? Fringe payments are all financial benefits that come along with working in your business. So maybe if my business tells me to go across overseas, those fringe benefits would be my hotel covers, my flight covers, and maybe if I'm a real estate agent, they give me a rental car to show people around house to house. That is aspects of fringe payments. These added financial perks you obtain only from working in that business. Now let's move on to non-financial rewards, okay? Let's look at job enrichment. Job enrichment is this idea of delegating and acquiring more tasks, okay, and this more sense of authority towards tasks to individuals in their work, okay, in order to enrich their sense of belonging and their sense of importance to the firm. This idea of job enrichment inflates the value of an employee within the firm to make them more motivated because they're getting given more challenging, a little bit more difficult tasks, forcing them to develop more skills and highlighting that they are important to the firm. Secondly, job rotation. Job rotation is this operational method which, when you have businesses like McDonald's or supermarkets, okay, with lots of low skilled jobs, okay, which has one man covering it all, these roles will switch from here. So the flipper, maybe one day you're a burger flipper, then the next day you're a cashier, the next day you're cleaning garbage, okay, and then the next day you're making fries, okay. That is the aspect of job rotation, when you have lots of similarly leveled skilled jobs which people can rotate into. The essence of this is in order to prevent boredom and this idea of demotivation within your business. Because if I am a burger flipper and every single day I just come to work and I do flip, I will get bored and I will become to get demotivated. So this aspect of job rotation ensures people don't get demotivated and they're continually faced with something new. Now, job enlargement. Job enlargement is the idea of being given more tasks that are on the same level of what you already do, just to give you more to do. Now, both job rotation and job enlargement are the ideas to negate boredom, okay? Job enlargement happens when you're given more tasks to do on the same level that you normally do, so you have something to do and you don't become bored. It's different from job enrichment because it doesn't enrich your perception of this business. It doesn't motivate you, but it just doesn't demotivate you, and it prevents that demotivation. Fourth, we have empowerment. Empowerment goes a step beyond enrichment. It gives you this sense of authority and autonomy over your own work to make you believe you are in charge, so you will be able to be more motivated to do what you want to do over your work experience, thus helping the business overall as your motivation increases. Fifth, we have purpose. Now, this is used heavily in social enterprises, okay? But it's an idea of a purpose. Giving opportunities to your employees to actually make a difference in the world. Maybe a worker who helps little kids in poverty get food. They don't get paid as much, but they're motivated by the purpose they are fulfilling, this opportunity to make a difference to the world. And lastly, we have teamwork. Giving employees an environment of teamwork will mostly foster this great motivation, because relationships can be formed, friendships can be formed, and this whole aspect of a community brings together to make everyone feel in this one culture together, motivating them to help the business. So these are the type of rewards. Okay, so now we move on to training in 2.4. Alright, so what is training? Training is the process of instructing or teaching your employees on how to perform certain tasks in their job, okay? It just is mentoring employees to perform certain tasks that you want to, certain desired tasks. What are the general objectives of training, okay? So, training, firstly, is used to enable employees, such as new employees or less experienced employees, to reach the level of your experienced employees, okay? This is to build a broad base of skills and expertise within your employees to really boost their output, okay? And once again, training is there to develop this sense of a knowledgeable, competent, and committed workforce, so you as a manager have trust in your workforce that they will be able to actually perform the tasks you give them and be productive as you want them to be. And finally, it's in order to train your employees to have these specialized skill sets, these desired skill sets of yours, to meet the needs of your customers so that they can fulfill their expectations they have. So, when it comes to training, we explore three types of training: induction training, on the job training, and off the job training. So, let's go by this one by one. Induction training is when you train new employees, this is the key part, new employees to acclimatize with people, policies, and processes of the organization. So that basically just means when before you hire an employee or no, before new employee starts working, you're getting them to familiarize with the existing policies, processes, and people of an organization. Now, this is really good because it helps you welcome new workers into your business, okay? And this makes them already feel like they're already part of the culture, which helps motivate them. Secondly, it increases their commitment and their job satisfaction within their job descriptions or their job roles in the future, because they're already been trained to know everything about the business, so they will already be committed and satisfied with what they have to do. And finally, this training helps you integrate your new employees into your business a lot more so that they become productive a lot quicker. It helps them make a lot less initial mistakes, and overall in the long run will help you as a business. However, induction training takes a lot of time and effort and is very time and effort extensive. So managers will need to be, on top of this and make sure it is worth their time. Secondly, it can be very overwhelming for your new employees because they are getting fed every single thing they should know. So this vast or this mass or this extent of information that they're receiving could be so overwhelming that when they come into the job, they feel like they have such high pressure or burden on them. Third, due to the time and effort, it gives managers this opportunity cost. Rather than doing stuff they could be as part of the job description, they have to spend time in induction training or organizing it. So, secondly, we have on-the-job training, okay? This is training that takes place within the organization, so employees are performing their actual work tasks. Let's look at within the organization, okay? That is a specific part on the job. It is when your new employees are coming in or other existing employees, and you make them work or as a mentor with already existing employees, just doing their day-to-day tasks and just mimicking their behavior if they need to. So, what are the advantages of this? It is relatively cheaper than induction and off the job because you just have to take one man off and make him watch someone else, which you may pay a small bonus to. Secondly, it's very focused and personalized to exactly what you want as a manager. If one line worker on this factory is making lots of mistakes, I'll send him to another line worker just on the same line to just make him watch to see how he's doing the tasks that he is supposed to do. So I can personalize and make this very focused to give it this direct objective of what the employee should learn. Third, it helps increase worker morale of not the person who's being trained, but actually of the worker who is the mentor, okay? Because this added pressure of someone watching me will make me not want to make mistakes or not want to be unproductive. So I work hard to set an example. Now, disadvantages. On the job can be disruptive, okay? Even though it allows workers to go with their daily tasks, it still can be disruptive if these people might have questions or you might need to help them do stuff, and you have to accommodate for an extra individual. So it can still reduce overall productivity of your workers. Secondly, this is a big one on the job. If the mentor you have applied or put on this trainee has some bad working habits, this trainee will pick up on these bad working habits and begin to emulate and copy these bad working habits, which is just something you just don't want as a business because you have an increased amount of bad working habits, which can result in lots of mistakes or slack. Thirdly, like your employees, just because they're doing their own work, that doesn't give them the expertise to train someone else on how to do what they do. They may lack the expertise on how to help others in order to get better themselves. So that leads us to the third option, off the job training. Okay, this is training that takes place outside of work environments, often involving structured learning experiences. Now, obviously, the key part here is outside work environments. Okay, this is literally just when people or the employees or the business workers or the business get sent away, either during working hours, after working hours, to learn more about how to improve their actions. So why is this good? Is because this minimizes your distractions in-house. If it's on the job, you have lots of distractions that are just there in your normal working environment. So if you send them outside of your work environment to an external venue, then you get to have minimized distractions and control the environment properly to make it one of fulfillment and learning. Secondly, this involvement of specialists and experts are extremely useful, okay, to employees, because it caters for their wide range of skills and abilities that people have due to their expertise and specialists. So this overall will lead to such a higher quality of training than you may get in induction or on-the-job training. However, the disadvantage, I think the first one is quite clear, that is a lot more expensive, okay? You need to get specialists, get expertise, get an external venue, and find a time for everyone. Secondly, there is a large loss of productivity because you have to send all of your workers and employees out and very directly disrupt their business, their operations, their practices in order to help train. And this may lead to a sense of employees' dissatisfaction because more often than not, a lot of employees find these as a drag. They find it something they don't want to go to, okay? So if it's not truly interactive or truly fulfilling for employees, it'll lead to the sense of dissatisfaction and potentially even demotivation. So that is all of training. Okay, so now for the rest of 2.4 is going to be HL onwards, okay? HL, oh, my pen is dying. So let's talk about labor turnover. This is an HL topic, but it is quite basic. Labor turnover is the amount of people who leave an organization as a percentage of the workforce during a period of time, okay? So usually that period of time is a year. It's just the amount of people who leave over the amount of people you have. So it can be expressed in this formula: the number of employees who leave the firm versus the number of total employees in the firm, okay? That is your labor turnover. However, in industries with a high labor turnovers, like fast food industries where it's just continuous part-time workers, you change this number of employees to average number of employees in the firm, okay? So, why do employees leave? Well, maybe another company is offering higher pay. Maybe they have some job dissatisfaction they're not with. Maybe they have personal reasons that they have, such as maybe family concerns, medical concerns. Maybe they're just retiring. They're just done. They're done with their job, so they're gone. Maybe they have a career break. They want to go further into education, or they want to start their own business because they found something new they want to try. And dismissals and redundancies, as in like firing employees, is why we have labor turnover. Now, what are the costs of high labor turnover? Well, the reason why businesses don't want high labor turnover is because it's high costs when it comes to recruiting new workers, okay? Because it comes, ultimately, high labor turnovers means there's a high cost, high burden on the business. Because because of a high labor turnover, you're going to have to spend a lot more into recruiting new workers, which can get very expensive. Additionally, you're going to have to spend a lot in training them, which is not only costly, but also less productive for your employees, as we've covered before. Third, due to the training, but also not just the training, you lose productivity in your businesses because you're missing employees. So during the time where you're getting new employees, so maybe with 10 employees you're at this level, but then now you're at 9, you move down to this level, and you have to wait until you get a new one to go back to your original level. So you have a time of lost productivity. Secondly, a company with high labor turnover can have lots of negative publicity onto themselves because it looks like an unstable, undesirable business. So consumers may not want to go buy from there as they find them unstable, undesirable, and people would not want to work there as well. And secondly, it has a negative impact on your remaining workforce because, as I said, since you're missing that one person, your existing workforce have to pick up that slack and get this greater burden that they have to pick up upon. And that's honestly it for labor turnover. Very simple. It's just how many people leave and why it's bad. But having zero labor turnover is also not that good or desirable for a business because that kind of just means you get no new skills or expertise. So obviously you don't want such a high labor turnover, but that does not mean you want your labor turnover to be zero, because that dismantles your business to actually grow, because you get no new skills, no new abilities, okay, and you're not able to get rid of these redundant and dismissals. So you want a relatively low labor turnover, but you don't want a zero. And that's about it for labor turnover. Okay, so this is now recruitment for 2.4, still a HL, HL only. So recruitment is just when a business, or the processes and operations of a business, when they are seeking and identifying or looking for new candidates to fill vacant places and vacant occupations within their business. So normally, businesses around the world tend to follow this 10-step recruitment process to actually recruit new workers, especially when it's external recruitment. So first, a job analysis is done at this vacant position in order to find out what it actually involved doing. Then a job description is published to what you find. So it's a job description, it's a document that's published of the findings of your job analysis. So you release what is the job title, what duties does it require, what do you need to do. So then after this, a personal specification is also released by the company in order to outline the desired individual for the set role. Then a job evaluation is done on this position in order to understand its value to the business and how it will impact others to incorporate its ideas like pay and remuneration. And then job advertisements are done where aspects or these documents are released to the pool of candidates. Then we move on to shortlisting. After looking at the pool of candidates, you shortlist to specific ones, which you then interview, a short list of candidates that you interview. Then after the interviews, you select which one you do is your most preferable. Then after the selection, you run background checks on this selected individual, and then you check their references and all of this. And then finally, you give them a job offer. This is the traditional recruitment processes. Now, when it comes to recruitment, we have internal and external recruitment, okay? Internal recruitment is just from recruiting from within the firm, okay? So if I have business, so that can be promoting someone, okay? Or giving them extra responsibilities. That is internal recruitment. External recruitment is promoting from outside of the firm, so finding new candidates through recruitment agencies, government suggestions, through just normal candidate applications. So let's look at internal recruitment first. Why is it good? Because firstly, it is less risky because it is less uncertain. You know the people you are recruiting internally. You know them already. You know the how efficient, how productive they can be. You know how they work. So it is a lot less uncertainty, which means a lot less risk. Secondly, it saves a lot of money and time because there's a lot less people. Okay, so I can instantly just look at them and go, "Oh, you deserve a promotion." Go. Third, it forms as a sense of motivation because it provides other employees in that business the fact that there are lots of internal growth opportunities. Okay. Fourth, you can also have a greater and a much smoother transition from that role to this new role, okay, in learning new skills, learning the policies, because they're already familiar with policies, procedures, and the other people in the organization. So it results in a smoother transition, thus being more productive a lot more quickly. However, there are a limited pool of suitable workers. You don't have as many people accessible as you would externally outside of your business. Secondly, you don't really get any new ideas into your business. Your business will continue to go through with the same old ideas it continues to go through because you're not getting anything new. Thirdly, there is an internal vacancy created. So if I promote a vice principal to principal, there is a vice principal position open which I need to fill, which does make it indirectly a little bit more time consuming. And fourth, there could be potential conflict as there might be multiple candidates that apply for the principal role and then only one vice principal get it. These two might get dissatisfied and create personal conflict or potential conflict. So now we have external recruitment. External recruitment is good because we get this larger candidate pool. In a business, I may be looking at this many individuals, but externally, outside of my business, is literally everybody who has applied, which could be a lot more larger. So I get a larger idea of skills, larger availability of tasks, which could mean more high specialized or more trained individuals. Secondly, we get new ideas into the business because new people are coming in, okay? So this could be very good for the business and they could change a little bit. Third, this is also motivational, but it's not motivational the same way as internal recruitment. It is motivational because you have new ideas. So then this change or maybe this new ideas, okay, provides employees this sense of preventing demotivation, okay? Because now there's new ideas, they don't get bored of the old stuff and they become to get more and more motivated again and again because there's fresh new ideas. However, there's a lot greater risks because there's a lot of uncertainty. Secondly, it's a lot more expensive and time consuming because you have to go through such a long process like here, where internally you can just look at an individual and then you can see, do they meet the job analysis, do they meet the job person specification, do they meet maybe an interview, and then just select. Okay, you don't need to run background checks, you don't need to do job advertisements. None of this is really that needed because you can just promote someone. Third, now it could also demotivate your existing workforce because people may understand that there are not that many internal growth opportunities within the business, which means that they don't really have a future or they might not think they have a future, so they begin to work less. So inherently, if you think about it, internal, external, the advantages and disadvantages are kind of swapped. Less certainty, greater risks, saves money and time, more expensive, motivates, demotivates, limited pool, larger pool, no new ideas, and then motivational impact. So like these stuff, if you know one of them, you know most of the other one. So that's about it for topic 2.4.